Hey everyone, Emily Grace here. And okay, that title probably got your attention. Vietnam Uncensored, the Sinful Facts. I know it sounds clickbaity, but here is the thing. Everyone who talks about Vietnam on YouTube shows you the same stuff. Beautiful beaches, delicious food, smiling locals, cheap cost of living. All of that is true, but nobody tells you the real story. The complicated, messy, fascinating reality of what life in Vietnam is actually like in 2025. I have been living in Southeast Asia for the past 8 years, and I have spent significant time in Vietnam. Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, Da Nang, Nha Trang, even smaller cities that tourists never visit. And I am going to tell you things that other channels will not touch. Not because they are trying to hide anything, but because they are worried about offending people or losing viewers. But you deserve the truth. If you are thinking about moving to Vietnam, dating Vietnamese women, or starting a business there, you need to know the reality beyond the Instagram highlights. The good, the bad, and yes, the sinful parts that make Vietnam absolutely fascinating. Now, when I say sinful, I am not talking about genuinely harmful or illegal things. I am talking about the aspects of Vietnamese culture and daily life that contradict the sanitized tourist version, the things that surprise expats, the cultural practices that shock Western sensibilities, the realities that make you rethink everything you thought you knew about Asia. Some of what I am going to share will make you want to pack your bags tomorrow. Other things will make you reconsider, but all of it is honest. This is Vietnam in 2025, unfiltered. We are going to talk about money and corruption, about the dating scene and what Vietnamese women are really looking for, about the surveillance state and internet censorship, about scams that target foreigners, about healthcare and what happens when you get sick, about the class system that nobody acknowledges, and about opportunities that exist if you know where to look. Buckle up. This is going to be honest in a way that might make some people uncomfortable. But that is the point. You deserve the real story. Let's dive in. Let me start with something that shocks every Western expat when they first arrive in Vietnam. Corruption is not a bug in the system. It is the system. And once you understand that, everything else makes sense. In Western countries, we are taught that corruption is this evil thing that undermines society. And on a large scale, that is true. But in Vietnam, small-scale corruption is just how things work. It is expected. It is normal. And honestly, once you get used to it, it can be surprisingly efficient. Traffic violations are the perfect example. You run a red light. A police officer pulls you over. In the West, you would get a ticket, points on your license, maybe a court date. In Vietnam, you hand the cop $20 and you are gone in 2 minutes. No paperwork, no record, no hassle. The cop makes extra money. You save time. Everyone is happy. Now, I know what you are thinking. That is bribery. That is wrong. And philosophically, maybe. But practically, it works. The Vietnamese system pays police officers very low official salaries. They are expected to supplement their income through these unofficial fees. It is built into how the system functions. This extends to everything. Want to open a business? The official process takes 6 months. Pay the right people, and it takes 2 weeks. Need a visa extension? Official channels are complicated and slow. Go through an agent who pays the right people, and it is done in days. Building permits, health inspections, business licenses, everything operates on this dual system. There is the official way, which is slow and expensive. And there is the real way, which involves knowing who to pay and how much. For foreigners, this is actually liberating once you accept it. In Western countries, bureaucracy is this impersonal nightmare where you fill out forms and wait and hope. In Vietnam, everything is negotiable. Everything has a price. And if you have cash, you can make things happen. But here is the dark side. This system creates massive inequality. Rich Vietnamese and connected foreigners can navigate everything easily. Poor Vietnamese get crushed by the same system. A poor person who cannot afford to pay gets stuck in bureaucratic hell. A rich person pays and moves forward. The other issue is that you never really know if what you are doing is legal or not. You open a business following all the steps your agent told you. But did they actually file the right paperwork? Or did they just pay people to look the other way? You might not find out until there is a problem. Real estate is particularly sketchy. Foreigners cannot technically own land in Vietnam. You can own an apartment in a building, but land ownership is complicated, so there are all these workarounds. Forming companies, using Vietnamese partners, various schemes. Some are legitimate, others are legally questionable, and you will not know which until something goes wrong. Vietnamese friends will tell you not to worry. This is normal. Everyone does it. And that is true. But it means you are operating in this gray area where the rules are unclear and enforcement is arbitrary. The tax system is the same. Nobody pays full taxes. Everyone has arrangements. Some portion of revenue is reported, some is not. Your accountant tells you what percentage to declare. It works until it does not. And if the government decides to make an example of someone, they can find violations everywhere because technically everyone is breaking some rule. This is what I mean by corruption being the system. It is not that Vietnam is uniquely corrupt compared to its neighbors. Thailand has similar dynamics. Philippines, Indonesia, same thing. But Vietnam is more centralized, more controlled, which makes the corruption more systematic rather than chaotic. For expats, you need to accept this reality. Fighting it is pointless. Complaining about it marks you as naive. The question is whether you can operate effectively within this system while protecting yourself from major risks. Here is something most YouTube videos about Vietnam will not mention. Vietnam is a surveillance state. The government monitors everything. Internet activity, social media posts, phone calls, physical movements, everything. And while this rarely impacts tourists, it absolutely affects long-term residents. The internet in Vietnam is censored. Facebook works, but the government monitors it closely. Certain pages are blocked. Posts that criticize the government disappear. People who post sensitive content get visits from police. YouTube is allowed but monitored. VPNs are technically illegal, though widely used. The government does not aggressively prosecute VPN use, but they could if they wanted to. That uncertainty hangs over everything. Messaging apps are the safest bet. Telegram, WhatsApp, Signal. These are harder for the government to monitor. Vietnamese people who want to discuss politics or sensitive topics use these apps. But even then, people are careful. Self-censorship is real. As a foreigner, you need to understand the red lines. Do not criticize the Vietnamese Communist Party publicly. Do not post about human rights issues in Vietnam. Do not talk about territorial disputes with China. Do not discuss the war in ways that contradict official narratives. And absolutely do not get involved in Vietnamese politics. Most expats learn to just not engage with politics at all. You can have private conversations with trusted friends. But public posts, videos, blogs, anything with your name attached, you stay away from political topics. The surveillance extends beyond the internet. Hotels and guest houses must report foreign guests to police. When you check in anywhere, your passport information goes into a database. The government knows where you are staying at all times. If you rent an apartment, your landlord is supposed to register you with local authorities. Most do this, some do not. But technically, the police know where every foreigner lives. This sounds oppressive, and philosophically it is. But day to day, it rarely impacts normal life. If you are just living, working, dating, traveling, you will never notice the surveillance. It is background radiation. Always there, but not affecting you directly. Where it becomes real is if you do something the government does not like. A foreigner who overstays a visa might find immigration knows exactly where to find them. Someone who gets involved with the wrong business partners might discover the police are suddenly interested in their activities. A person who posts something critical might get a polite warning to stop. The enforcement is selective. The government does not have resources to monitor everyone all the time. but they monitor enough that people self-censor. And that is the point. The uncertainty creates compliance. Vietnamese people are very aware of this. They know what they can and cannot say. They have lived with it their entire lives. They navigate it naturally. As a foreigner, you need to learn the invisible boundaries. The other aspect of the surveillance state is nationalism. Vietnam promotes intense national pride. Criticism of Vietnam, Vietnamese culture, or Vietnamese history is taken very seriously. Even seemingly innocent comments can cause problems. I have seen foreigners get in trouble for complaining about traffic on social media, for joking about Vietnamese food, for comparing Vietnam unfavorably to Thailand or other countries. The government views this as insulting Vietnam, and they can make your life difficult. The visa system is one enforcement mechanism. Your visa can be denied without explanation. Your extension can be rejected. Your business license can be revoked. There is no appeal process. The government decides, and you deal with it. This creates a culture where expats are very careful about what they say publicly. Facebook posts are sanitized. YouTube videos are overwhelmingly positive. Blogs avoid controversial topics. Not because everyone loves everything about Vietnam, but because criticism has consequences. Does this mean you should not move to Vietnam? Not necessarily. It means you need to understand the environment. Vietnam is a one-party communist state. Personal freedom is limited. Political expression is controlled. If you need freedom of speech and open criticism of government, Vietnam is not for you. But if you can accept these limitations, if you can stay out of politics and focus on your personal life, Vietnam offers a lot. The surveillance state is real, but it is predictable. Learn the rules, follow them, and you will be fine. All right, let me talk about dating in Vietnam. This is where things get really interesting and where a lot of Western men get their feelings hurt because the reality does not match their expectations. Vietnamese women are practical about relationships in a way that shocks Western men. They are not interested in romance for romance's sake. They are evaluating partners based on what those partners can provide. Money, stability, visa opportunities, lifestyle improvement. This is not gold digging in the pejorative sense. This is cultural pragmatism. In Vietnamese culture, marriage is an economic arrangement as much as a romantic one. Families evaluate potential partners based on financial capacity. Women are raised to prioritize stability over passion. Love is nice, but security is essential. As a Western man in Vietnam, you need to understand that you are attractive primarily because of what you represent economically. You have a foreign passport. You have dollars or euros. You can potentially take her out of Vietnam or provide a lifestyle she cannot access with a local man. That is your value proposition. Now, this does not mean Vietnamese women are incapable of love or genuine affection. They absolutely are. But the foundation of the relationship is practical. Once the practical foundation is established, love can develop. But without the practical foundation, there is no relationship. This is completely opposite from Western romantic ideology, where we pretend money does not matter and love conquers all. Vietnamese culture is honest about the role of money in relationships. Women are open about expecting financial support. Men are expected to be providers, period. The age gap relationships that are common in Vietnam reflect this dynamic. A 50-year-old Western man with a 25-year-old Vietnamese woman is completely normal. Nobody bats an eye. Why? Because he can provide security and lifestyle. She provides youth and beauty. It is a trade everyone understands. Western men often fool themselves into thinking these young women are genuinely attracted to them physically or emotionally. Sometimes they are, but usually the attraction is primarily practical. The sooner you accept this, the healthier your relationship will be. Vietnamese women are also very aware of the visa angle. Many women who date foreign men are hoping for marriage and relocation to the West. This is not necessarily sinister, it is rational. Vietnam is a developing country with limited opportunities. Marrying a Westerner and moving abroad represents a massive quality of life improvement. The question is whether this is acknowledged openly or hidden behind romance. The healthiest relationships are where both people are honest about what they want. He wants a young, attractive, traditional partner. She wants financial security and opportunity. Fair trade, everyone happy. The problematic relationships are where the man thinks she loves him for who he is, while she is just tolerating him for what he provides. Or where she thinks he genuinely cares about her, while he just wants a sex toy he can control. Both of these dynamics exist in Vietnam. The bar girl and hostess culture adds another layer. Karaoke bars, massage parlors, nightclubs. These employ thousands of Vietnamese women. Some are explicit sex workers. Others exist in gray areas. They entertain male customers, drink with them, flirt with them, and sometimes go home with them for additional payment. Many Western men meet Vietnamese girlfriends in these venues. The women tell stories about needing money for sick relatives, for school, for family emergencies. Some of these stories are true. Many are not. The men believe they are saving or helping these women. Meanwhile, the women are often seeing multiple foreign men, each of whom thinks he is special. This is not unique to Vietnam. Thailand, Philippines, Cambodia, same dynamics exist. But Vietnam adds the complication of being more controlled and less open. The sex industry exists, but is officially illegal. Everything operates in gray areas. Police are paid off. Venues get raided occasionally to make examples. But mostly, everything continues. Vietnamese women from good families, educated women, middle-class women, they exist too. And they are also open to dating foreign men. But they are more selective. They want foreign men who are genuinely stable, who are respectful, who will treat them well. They are not looking for visa tickets. They are looking for good partners. These women are harder to find because they are not in bars or on obvious dating apps. They are working professional jobs, spending time with families, living normal lives. You meet them through social circles, through work, through shared interests, and building relationships with them requires time and genuine effort. The Vietnamese dating apps are interesting. Tinder exists but is mainly for hookups and bar girls. Zalo is the main Vietnamese messaging app, and it is used for dating too. Facebook dating is popular, but the cultural expectations are the same everywhere. Men pay for dates. Men provide. Women evaluate based on what men can offer. The language barrier is real in dating. Outside major cities, English is limited. You need to learn Vietnamese to build deep connections. Google Translate only goes so far. Learning the language shows respect and commitment, which Vietnamese women appreciate. One more uncomfortable truth. Skin color matters in Vietnam. Lighter skin is preferred. Darker-skinned foreigners, African men, Indian men, Southeast Asian men, they face more challenges in the dating market than white men. This is not Western wokeness. This is Asian reality. Colorism is real, pervasive, and not going away. Dating in Vietnam can lead to genuine partnerships. Many successful marriages exist. But you need to go in with eyes open. Understand the transactional nature. Be honest about what you offer. Look for women who are honest about what they want. And do not fool yourself into thinking a 25-year-old woman is with your 50-year-old self because of your sparkling personality. Let me be very direct about something. Foreigners in Vietnam are seen as walking ATMs by a significant portion of the population. Not everyone, not even most people, but enough that you need to be constantly vigilant about scams. The taxi scam is classic. You get in a taxi, the meter runs at triple speed, a $5 ride costs $30. The driver claims that is the correct price and gets aggressive if you argue. This happens constantly to tourists and new expats. The solution is using Grab, which is the Uber of Southeast Asia. Fixed prices, tracked rides, cashless payment. But even Grab drivers will sometimes try to cancel rides and convince you to pay cash for more money. The restaurant scam is everywhere. You order a beer, the menu says 15,000 dong, the bill says 150,000 dong. You ordered the local beer, they brought the imported beer. The price is different. The menu was unclear. You should have asked. Pay up. Real estate scams targeting expats are sophisticated. An agent shows you a beautiful apartment. You love it. You pay 6 months rent up front plus deposit. You move in. 3 months later, the real owner shows up. The person you paid was not authorized to rent the apartment. Your money is gone. Your lease is invalid. This happens. Business partnership scams are common. A Vietnamese partner proposes a business. You invest money. Suddenly, there are unexpected expenses. More money needed, then more. Eventually, you realize the business never existed. Your partner disappears with your money. Maybe the business exists, but is entirely controlled by the Vietnamese partner, and you have no real ownership despite what you were told. The marriage scam is heartbreaking but real. A woman dates a foreign man. She loves him, or so she says. She has a sick parent, a family emergency, a crucial opportunity. She needs money. He gives it because he loves her. Then, more emergencies. More money. Eventually, he realizes she has no intention of marrying him. She was extracting money the entire time. Sometimes these women have multiple foreign boyfriends all sending money. The fake police scam happens occasionally. Men claiming to be police stop you on the street. They want to check your passport and visa. They find some problem, real or invented. You need to pay a fine immediately or come to the station. Scared foreigners pay. Real police wear uniforms and are usually not randomly stopping foreigners on the street. The motorbike rental scam is prevalent in tourist areas. You rent a motorbike. When you return it, the owner claims there is damage that was not there before. They demand payment for repairs. The damage was either already there or they created it themselves. They hold your passport until you pay. Tourists pay rather than miss flights. The pharmacy scam sells fake medications. You buy antibiotics or other drugs. You take them. They do nothing because they are counterfeit. The pharmacy looks legitimate, the packaging looks real, but the pills are fake. This is dangerous beyond just losing money. ATM skimming and card cloning happen. You use an ATM, your card information is stolen, your account is drained. Using ATMs inside banks is safer than standalone machines on the street. These scams work because Vietnam is still developing and legal protections are weak. Police are often not interested in helping foreigners with civil disputes. Courts are slow and expensive. Scammers know they are unlikely to face consequences. The Vietnamese people who are honest and trustworthy often get offended when foreigners are suspicious. They say, "Not everyone is a scammer. Why do you not trust me?" And they are right that most Vietnamese are honest. But the percentage who are running scams is high enough that blanket suspicion is rational self-protection. The solution is to be cautious, verify everything, never pay large sums up front, use contracts even with friends, and accept that some losses are inevitable. Budget for getting scammed occasionally. It is part of the cost of living in Vietnam. Healthcare in Vietnam is a two-tier system. There are local public hospitals where Vietnamese people go, and there are international private hospitals where expats and rich Vietnamese go. The quality gap is enormous. Local public hospitals are crowded, understaffed, and often lack basic supplies. The doctors are competent but overwhelmed. The facilities are outdated. You will wait hours. The experience is chaotic. And while treatment is cheap, the quality is concerning for serious conditions. International hospitals in major cities are much better. Vinmec, FV Hospital, these are modern facilities with English-speaking doctors, up-to-date equipment, and decent care. But they are expensive. A simple ER visit can cost hundreds of dollars. Major treatment costs thousands. You absolutely need insurance. The challenge is that international hospitals exist only in Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, and Da Nang. If you live in a smaller city or rural area and have a medical emergency, you are going to a local hospital. And that can be scary. Medical evacuation insurance is essential for expats. If something serious happens, you want to be flown to Bangkok or Singapore, where healthcare is genuinely world-class. Vietnam can handle minor issues and basic emergencies. But for complex conditions, cancer, major surgery, you want to be elsewhere. Dental care in Vietnam is actually quite good and affordable. Many expats get dental work done for a fraction of Western prices. The quality is decent if you go to reputable clinics that cater to foreigners. Pharmacies sell almost everything over the counter. Antibiotics, pain medications, even some controlled substances are available without prescriptions. This is convenient but also dangerous because there is no professional oversight. People self-medicate with drugs they do not understand. Traditional medicine is everywhere. Vietnamese people trust traditional remedies alongside or instead of Western medicine. Herbal treatments, cupping, acupuncture, these are mainstream. Some have real benefits, others are superstition. Mental health care barely exists. Depression, anxiety, PTSD, these are not well understood or treated in Vietnam. The stigma around mental illness is intense. Expats struggling with mental health have very limited options. Online therapy with providers in Western countries is often the only solution. The medical system also operates on corruption. Better treatment requires cash payments to doctors. Your family member in the hospital needs someone there constantly to ensure they get proper care and medications. This is just how it works. For minor issues, cuts, colds, stomach bugs, Vietnam is fine. For chronic conditions requiring ongoing care, it is manageable, but requires planning. For emergencies or serious illness, you want to be able to get out of the country. This is why age matters when considering moving to Vietnam. If you are young and healthy, the healthcare situation is not a major concern. If you are older with health issues, Vietnam becomes risky. You need comprehensive insurance and evacuation coverage, which gets expensive. Many expats do medical tourism. They live in Vietnam most of the year, but return home or go to Thailand for serious medical care. This works as long as you can travel and afford it. The reality is that Vietnam is a developing country. The healthcare system reflects that. It is improving every year, but it is not first world. You need to plan accordingly and accept the risks. Here is something that makes progressive Westerners uncomfortable. Vietnam has a rigid class system, and everyone knows exactly where they fit in the hierarchy. This is not acknowledged openly, but it shapes every interaction. At the top are party officials and their families. These are the connected elite. They live in different worlds from ordinary Vietnamese. They drive luxury cars, live in mansions, send their kids to international schools, and have access to opportunities regular people can only dream about. Below them are successful business owners, especially those connected to the party or state-owned enterprises. These are wealthy Vietnamese who have navigated the system successfully. They are nouveau riche but increasingly powerful. Then you have the educated middle class. University graduates, professionals, white-collar workers. They live comfortably by Vietnamese standards but are not wealthy. They aspire to join the upper class, but most will not. Below them are the working class. Motorbike taxi drivers, factory workers, service industry employees, small vendors. They work hard but live paycheck to paycheck. They are the majority of Vietnamese people. At the bottom are the rural, poor, ethnic minorities, people without connections or education. They are largely invisible in the cities but represent millions of people living in poverty. Foreigners exist outside this system but are generally treated according to wealth signals. A rich expat is treated with respect. A budget backpacker is treated as lower class. Your clothes, where you live, how you spend money. These determine how Vietnamese people categorize you. The class system is enforced through subtle social cues. The language has different levels of formality based on relative status. Body language changes based on who is speaking to whom. Seating arrangements at meals reflect hierarchy. These things are invisible to foreigners but obvious to Vietnamese. Dating and marriage follow class lines. Upper-class Vietnamese marry within their class. Marrying down is stigmatized. Marrying up is the goal for lower-class Vietnamese. A poor Vietnamese woman dating a rich foreigner is trying to escape her class position. The class system explains a lot of behavior that confuses foreigners. Why are service workers sometimes rude? Because they are treated as low status by Vietnamese customers and resent it. Why do some Vietnamese aggressively pursue rich foreigners? Because associating with wealth can improve their social position. The system is also regional. Northern Vietnamese look down on Southerners. Hanoians consider themselves more sophisticated and cultured. Saigonese consider themselves more business-savvy and cosmopolitan. Each region has stereotypes about others. Ethnic Vietnamese dominate the hierarchy. Ethnic minorities, even those who have lived in Vietnam for generations, face discrimination. Chinese Vietnamese are economically successful but socially separate. Cambodian and Laotian minorities in the South are marginalized. The class system is one reason corruption is so embedded. Lower-class people have no access to power through legitimate channels, so they use whatever leverage they have. A police officer cannot afford to live on his official salary, so he extracts bribes. A low-level bureaucrat takes payment to process paperwork because otherwise his family cannot make ends meet. Upper-class Vietnamese are insulated from most of the problems of daily life. They do not deal with corruption because they have enough money to pay whatever is needed. They do not worry about healthcare because they can afford international hospitals or treatment abroad. They do not stress about visas because they have connections. For expats, understanding the class system helps you navigate social situations. You need to treat people according to their position if you want smooth interactions. Being too casual with someone of higher status is disrespectful. Being too formal with someone of lower status seems condescending. Finding the right balance requires cultural awareness. The class system also affects where you can live and socialize. Some neighborhoods are for wealthy people. Foreigners living in those areas are accepted. Some neighborhoods are working class. A foreigner living there might face suspicion or exploitation. The Vietnamese dream is to escape into a higher class. Education is the main legitimate path, which is why Vietnamese parents sacrifice enormously for their children's education. Business is another path, though risky. Marrying up is a third path, especially for women. The system is not changing quickly. Vietnam is growing economically, but the hierarchy remains rigid. Knowing your place and acting accordingly is how Vietnamese society functions. As a foreigner, you can operate somewhat outside the system, but understanding it helps you avoid problems. Now, after all the challenges and darkness, let me talk about why people still move to Vietnam. Because despite everything I have described, Vietnam offers genuine opportunities to make money and build businesses that would be impossible in more developed countries. Teaching English is the easiest entry point. Vietnam desperately needs English teachers. Schools and language centers hire foreigners constantly. The pay is decent by Vietnamese standards, around $20 to $30 per hour. You can live comfortably on 20 hours of teaching per week. The barrier to entry is low. Many schools will hire you with just a bachelor's degree and a TEFL certificate. Some will hire you without the TEFL if you are a native speaker. The visa is handled through the school. It is straightforward. But teaching is usually a starting point, not a long-term career. Most expats teach for a year or two while learning Vietnamese and figuring out other opportunities. The digital nomad life works well in Vietnam. If you have remote work or an online business, Vietnam offers great quality of life at low cost. Fast internet in cities, good coffee shops with comfortable workspaces, affordable living. Many developers, designers, writers, and consultants base themselves in Vietnam while working for Western clients. Starting a business in Vietnam has huge potential but also massive risks. The market is growing rapidly. Middle-class Vietnamese have money to spend. There is demand for quality products and services, but the regulatory environment is nightmarish, competition is fierce, and without Vietnamese partners, success is unlikely. The businesses that work for expats usually serve other expats or wealthy Vietnamese. Restaurants serving Western food, bars catering to expats, real estate services, consulting, These can be profitable, but you need significant capital and connections. E-commerce is exploding in Vietnam. Shopee, Lazada, Tiki, these platforms are huge. Selling products online to Vietnamese consumers is lucrative if you can navigate logistics and marketing. Many expats partner with Vietnamese who understand the market. Content creation and influencing works if you have a following. Vietnam is hungry for content about modern lifestyle, fashion, travel, food. Expats who build Vietnamese language content or bilingual content can monetize through sponsorships and partnerships. Real estate investment is where serious money is made, but it is also where serious money is lost. Property values in major cities have exploded, but the legal situation for foreigners is murky. Condos are easier than land. New developments are safer than existing properties, but every transaction involves risk. Consulting and business services are in demand. If you have expertise in areas where Vietnam is developing, marketing, finance, logistics, IT, you can charge good money as a consultant to Vietnamese companies trying to modernize. The key to making money in Vietnam is finding gaps between what exists and what is needed. Vietnam is developing rapidly. There are constant opportunities for people who can identify needs and fill them before the market becomes saturated. But making money in Vietnam requires accepting the chaos, the corruption, the unpredictability. You cannot operate like you would in the West. Plans change constantly. Partnerships are complicated. Nothing happens as quickly as promised. You need flexibility and resilience. The expats who succeed financially in Vietnam are those who embrace Vietnamese culture rather than fighting it. Learning the language is essential. Building relationships with Vietnamese partners is crucial. Understanding how the system actually works rather than how it should work makes all the difference. Vietnam rewards hustle and adaptability. If you show up expecting stability and clear rules, you will be frustrated and broke. If you show up ready to navigate chaos and seize opportunities, Vietnam can be incredibly lucrative. The cost of failure is also relatively low. If a business does not work, you have not lost as much as you would have in a Western country. The cost of living is low enough that you can try multiple things without going broke. Vietnam in 2025 is at an interesting moment. It is developed enough that infrastructure works and markets exist, but it is still developing enough that opportunities are everywhere. This sweet spot will not last forever. 10 years from now, Vietnam will be more expensive, more regulated, more saturated. Right now is the time if you want to build something. So there you have it, Vietnam Uncensored. The sinful facts that nobody talks about. Corruption, surveillance, transactional relationships, karaoke culture, scams, healthcare problems, rigid class systems, but also genuine opportunities. Does this mean you should not move to Vietnam? No. It means you should move to Vietnam with your eyes open. Understand what you are getting into. Accept the challenges along with the opportunities. Do not arrive with naive expectations. Vietnam is not perfect, but it is fascinating, affordable, and full of potential. The people are resilient and entrepreneurial. The culture is deep and complex. The food is incredible. The country is beautiful. Life can be genuinely good there if you navigate it skillfully. The sinful facts are just reality. Every country has darkness alongside the light. Vietnam is honest about its chaos in a way that more developed countries hide behind bureaucracy and pretense. In Vietnam, everything is visible. The corruption, the transactional nature of relationships, the class divisions, you can see it all if you look. That visibility is actually a gift. You know what you are dealing with. There are no surprises if you pay attention. The rules are clear, even if they are not written down. Once you learn how Vietnam actually works, you can thrive there. Just remember, respect the culture, learn the language, build genuine relationships, stay out of politics, protect yourself from scams, get good insurance, and embrace the chaos. Vietnam is not for everyone, but for the right person, it is extraordinary. Thanks for watching.